coming through and seeing so many different kinds of people overcome so many different kinds of obstacles in the gym. When someone has an aha moment, I always wish I could hit the record button on like my phone or something and just play this for the next person and say like, when you're, I don't know how I'm going to be able to batch cook with my kids eating the way they eat. And then they figure out how to game it and solve the problem. And all of a sudden things open up. You're one of those people that I've probably had 5 or 10 conversations like that where I'm like, oh, hit record now. And like, this is the thing that everyone's stuck on and then need to stumble through and figure it out. And you're kind of lighting the steps. So I'm hoping to do some of that today. So there's some of my enthusiasm and
fun, man. Yeah. Let's, every problem has a solution. It's one of my mantras. So got to figure it out.
That's right, man. So to get people up to speed on you, because this is a podcast for entrepreneurs and people who are, taking on big projects, and health is a part of that. You're a great crossroad intersection that probably a lot of people in this space haven't heard of. So you were Aziz Gazipura, Dr. Aziz Gazipura.
That's
and
right.
You, aside from having your own practice, you became a confidence coach and the author of 4 books on social anxiety, confidence, and figuring it out.
3 so far. Number 4 is in the works. Be released next year.
Okay. So
on the way to 10.
Solution to social anxiety, art of extraordinary confidence, not nice, which is your best work so far, if I do say so myself.
Sir, I agree. It's my opus to date.
Awesome. Well, as somebody you even reading the Solution to Social Anxiety, which is funny because so many of us have that and don't really have no name for it or don't consciously think about it. When you read the pages of somebody who's gone and painstakingly cataloged all the fears and phobias and awkward moments that we all deal with, reading it was like super interesting to me and uncomfortable in a lot of times. And I was just thinking like, man, like there's so much under the surface that's happening and that we're all dealing with at our own different levels.
Yeah.
It's pretty.
And that's true for like social anxiety, which you might think of as more restricted, something, as you said, we all experience, but that's more like, oh, that's preventing me from connecting with people. But then when we get into, say, the art of extraordinary confidence, there's that same restriction, that same block, maybe not just in a social situation, but in growing a business or figuring out something with your health or how to be more bold or ask for what you want. Or, I mean, all of these things, it's the same mechanism of like, I want to do it, but I'm scared. And all this stuff's going on behind the scenes in my head, all the stories and all the doubts. And we want to, navigate through that too. So we can just keep growing like a waterfall, man. That's what I want to do, is just be growing so fast. It's like just continually flowing.
Well, you said it right. Obstacles, there's all these you're pushing up against these barriers, some of which are internal, some of which are external. And let's get into that right freaking meow, because you have a business. It's personal coaching. It's a lot of it's online. You also are a writer. Your business model is probably a little bit different than some people who are listening to this. We interviewed Brianne Day last episode, and she has a winery which people can visualize. And they're like, okay, so you make wine there, and it gets bottled somehow through magic elves press the grapes and stuff happens. But so when you started your business, because you could walk us through, like, you graduate college, you get into practicing psychology or whatever it's called, and then you kind of go into this new realm that you're kind of inventing as you go. And so walk us through, like, how does that business unfold, and what does that look like?
Sure. Well, what's really interesting is you mentioned the winery, and they might seem like two totally opposite worlds, but in a way they're not that different, what I do and what the winery does. So
I'm listening.
And what I do now is a little different than what I did when I first got out. So when I first got out of college, I actually went into graduate school and pursued a degree in clinical psychology. I didn't know exactly what I was going to do with it, but I knew I wanted to help people because I'd been growing so much myself and was just addicted to personal growth at that point that I was like, I want to help other people. And the main sort of the mainstream accepted avenue I thought of for that was like, well, become a counselor, become a therapist. So I was pursuing that. And then along the way, I discovered Tony Robbins and the coaching world and was like, whoa, this is way better. So
Yeah.
this is way more up my
Isn't it
alley.
rock and roll at these events?
Yeah, I know. This is way more interesting than graduate school. And so, and just way more in line with what I was about, which was about how do we, have a very expansive view of human potential. We're not here to diagnose and sort of categorize people and describe how they're broken. We're here to effect rapid and radical change, which is the language that I use for my mission, or that one of my missions in life, which is to inspire radical and rapid transformation in as many people as I can, while I'm here and even after I'm gone, through books and other things. So I got inspired by that. I still finished out the graduate degree, started a private practice in therapy, and then started to shift over to this. And as you're right, I'm making it up as I go. It's there's no set path for coaching, but here's why it's like a winery, is because I see myself as more of a teacher than anything else. And that might seem like, well, coach, teacher, same thing. And actually they're very different to me. So what I do here in this office, as you can see, yes, that's the crash pad over there, because I have a wacky sleep schedule. We can talk about that later. Yeah. But, this is a recording studio. And I didn't start with this. I started recording shit in my office, my therapy office, in the basement at my house. I converted that into an audio recording studio for my podcast. And by studio, I mean moving blankets nailed inside of a closet to create a studio. Yeah, so not fancy, but effective. And as time went on and the business grew, I was able to afford building out an actual recording studio. So what I do here is I provide, just like the winery provides an experience for people. They get to buy the bottle of wine, and it's going to give them something. It's going to give them comfort, relaxation, fun, good taste, enjoyment. When people come across my materials, which are packaged like wine bottles, there's the free stuff, YouTube, a podcast, and then there's the stuff you can buy, a more comprehensive training program. Or you want to buy something even better, it's like, hey, not just a thing you do on your own, like let's package this and work together. But regardless of what level someone wants to buy into, they're getting the same thing. They're getting an experience. The cool thing about what I sell, though, is the experience is not just, oh, that was fun while I did it, now I'm hungover. It's, wow, I did that experience, and now my life is, X times better. And that's even from the YouTube up through like the bigger stuff, like the mastermind program, and those things are, and that's what I love. But it's still, it's like you're buying something, you're getting something, you're getting an experience. And just like the wine, like the better I can get at articulating what it is that they're getting, so they know if they want it or not, then the more people can decide if they want to buy it.
Wow, man. That's a very good way to use that wine analogy and take it all the way home. And what I like about that is
I've never done that before. That was you set that one up. I just had to go with it.
You took content marketing and info products, and you made that so digestible. See how I'm sticking with the wine metaphor?
Yeah.
You made that so digestible and easy. That's how you could tell somebody who really knows what they're talking about. If somebody's teaching something and they make it sound even simpler, if you make it sound simple, that's how you know you got a good grasp on the concept. I think that's Einstein said that. If you can't explain it simply, you don't really know what you're talking about.
I think that's true. I agree with that.
So that's huge. There's so much there. I love that you're talking about their experience, whether it's a YouTube video or an info product or working with you or going to an event or whatever, and all the different ways that it engages you. But at the end of the day, like you're trying to change somebody's life or change someone's behavior or their state, and through any one of those, vintages.
We'll just keep it going all day, baby.
We'll see how long we can write it out. But like, because you consume some stuff on the internet. I do too. And I could think of probably 6-10 like free YouTube videos, easy off the top of my head, that I've memorized because I listen to them so much, and I the refrain of the message or the messenger is kind of in my head, and how much that sticks with you when you're dealing with stuff on a day-to-day basis. Those little one-liners that somebody throws off, or that you might get from a mentor or a teacher, like just little seeds. That's all it takes.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's huge. And I think that's one of the remarkable benefits of the era that we live in, is that you can hang out with brilliant people that you'd never have access to in the past. Maybe you could go to like an Amsterdam coffee house and like try to hang out at the cool guy table or whatever, and good luck, right? You have to be in the right place at the right time. Now, anyone who has access to a smartphone can listen to literally the smartest people on any particular subject. And it's just, all you have to do is have the intention and the desire, and listen to is like literally, like, especially on YouTube and platforms that are more informal, you are hanging out with them. Or, if you listen to someone's audiobook, you're spending like hours and hours and hours in this person's world. And you, just like if you're hanging out with a good friend for 15 hours or something like that, you're going to take in a lot of their mindsets, their attitude, you're going to be influenced by them. So I'm a huge believer in that, in modeling. And, I have really, especially with small kids, have really been intentional about who I hang out with in my free time. I've been intentional about which clients I take on. And I want to spend a lot of time with my kids and my wife. And then I have a small group of people, probably under 10, where it's like, these are the relationships that I'm going to nurture. You are one of those relationships. And they're people that all inspire me. Some of them are, family members that I have a deep blood bond with.
Challenge you deeply.
They challenge me deeply that I'm, my parents and stuff, I'm going to love them and be with them, for their whole lives. But, and then beyond that though, when like someone's like, hey, I want to hang out with you, I want to do this thing, I'll kind of run them through like a little acid test. And it's like, would I rather hang out with that person or like hang out with freaking 600 pages of Arnold Schwarzenegger? And honestly, I'm like, sometimes like, no, I'd rather this is going to benefit me more. And so I think hanging out with those people and learning from them is just, it's incredible. And I'm just, I think like everything, we take it for granted. We don't realize that this didn't exist like 10 years ago, YouTube. Oh, yeah. And other stuff. I don't know when it started. Maybe it was a little longer than that, but not much longer.
Years, yeah, for sure.
And then like 10 years before that, in 1998, I mean, the internet was like grindy slow. Right around then, maybe 94, 95, it was grindy slow. Like we're just like, oh yeah, I saw that a month ago, so whatevs.
Or 24 hours, like things that happened like 3 days ago are like non-operative anymore. And it's like, but it's also, it's funny because we're paying $1,000 to listen to Tony Robbins read what Jim Rohn read to him.
He does it with style, baby.
Yeah. Well, no, but I mean, like it's not lost on me that like, and thank God we do have access to all these great minds and that help develop us. And so, but back to the creating all of that stuff. Now you mentioned your kids. So you got a wife and you have 2 children now. I've seen both of them. They are alive and well and feisty.
They exist.
So how long have you been? How long has the Center for Social Confidence been a thing?
It technically started at the end of very end of 2011. And end of 2011, I was recording a homepage video in December. I remember that.
Yes.
So it really kicked off in 2012. And so it's been 6 years.
Okay. So 6 years, 3 books, coming up on 4, near infinite level of free content on the interwebs, and so many events and people that you've helped. So talk about like all those things you just said about managing your time and energy around staying productive and pushing out information to the people that you're serving, and also taking really good care. For those of you who don't know, and I'm sure that's no one because people don't watch Aziz at his house with his family. Aziz is an extremely attentive father and a really, really, really compassionate husband and just a great friend. And when you're with him, he's really, really with you, and he projects a lot of presence in whatever he's doing. So he's been doing that for a while. So talk to me about how the family balance works with all of the stuff that you're doing.
Yeah. Um, well, surprisingly well, given a couple of things. One, the capacity to work from home. So this studio is in the back of our property, standalone building, which really helps. So my commute is 18 seconds. And what it allows for is so remember I mentioned my mission earlier was to inspire radical and rapid transformation in as many people as I can. That's mission number 3. Mission number 1 is to be a patient, present, playful, deeply loving husband and father. And then mission number 2 is my own personal growth, to just be growing at waterfall pace, just as rapidly as I can, expanding as quickly and as much as I can. And then number 3 is to turn around and use all that to help others. And I actually really had to prioritize that in my head, because otherwise they could get out of balance. And then what would happen is something would come up and it would be like, oh, my own growth and family doesn't matter. I got to focus on some work project. And I really had to shift the scales to be like, oh, nothing is more important than family, close relationships, and my own growth, my own health, then work, then helping others. It's basic, put the airline, whatever, put the gas, the mask, the oxygen on you first kind of self-care stuff. So with so first, clarity of priorities, then being able to work from home, then just a progressive increase in mastery of focus and self-management. Because I remember I learned this a long time ago. There's no such thing as time management. There's self-management, because time is universal. It's the same for everyone. So it's, what are you doing in the 24 hours in a day? So it's, how do you manage yourself? And I've just gotten better and better and better at managing myself. And what that looks like is a more and more detailed Google Calendar. So I looked back a couple of years ago and I had, when I was in the calendar, I'd have like my work day and some appointments and stuff, but a lot of blank time when there wasn't anything going on. In fact, let's do this real quick. Let me,
Are we screen to screening your calendar? Yes.
Yeah, but are people going to listen to this on audio? Because I guess I'll narrate what I'm.
Oh yeah, they can do both. So let's narrate it for us.
Yeah, I'm going to narrate it, and I'll do it this real quick. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time on this, but I think it's cool to be able to see it. So let me pull up my calendar. So let's go back to say 2 years ago. What would that be? That would be March 21st, 2016. So look at that. Like, there's some of my appointments on there and some stuff like that, and maybe some projects I was working on, but pretty empty and nothing in the morning. So if you're looking at this calendar, or I'm describing it to the audio people, it's, you got the appointments in there.
It looks like
9 to 5, right? Standard work day, Monday through Friday. And then somewhere in there, say maybe, let's say a year later, to March 2017, notice how we have the writing now you're going to see something at 3:45 a.m. So I'm waking up crazy early at this point, and it says Not Nice. That's the book that I'm writing. At 3:45, I'm writing from 3:45 to 4:30, and then it says Warrior. That's what I'm training out with Josh. So now my morning is scripted. It's scheduled, and it seems like obvious, but it's one thing to know that you're doing it, and it's a very different thing to literally have it on your calendar. And it takes the decision making out of it, and then you'll also see that in the day, there's my schedules, my appointments, but also there's things that say like between 2 and 3:30 on Mondays, I'm doing a core block. That means I'm working on things uninterrupted. That means when someone says, hey, can we do a session on Monday at 2? I say, no, I'm not available on Monday at 2. Whereas before there was blank in my schedule, so I'd fill it in. Now I say, no, I got a core block. So I started to prioritize. And what I do, and this is part of what I call creating the ultimate schedule, is I've done this many times, at least 5 or 6 times. I go out a month or two and say, what do I want to enhance? What do I want more of? What do I want less of? So for example, as you'll see when we get to the next iteration here, somewhere along the way, I was like, I want uninterrupted work block times in the morning. But I didn't have that. You say, I got this appointment here. I got these clients there. So I'm not just going to shift all my clients like, hey, everyone, no more mornings. I thought, well, why not cycle towards that over the next couple months? So if we went, say,
reasonable of you.
Yeah, right. And sometimes I'd make faster changes. So we cycle 6 months. and now we're say in October of let's see here, November of. So now you're going to see. Now I have my time in the morning is blocked off. I have every morning I have a create block. Sometimes it's longer, sometimes it's shorter, but usually 2 to 3 hours. And all my appointments are now in the afternoon. I also have running on my calendar in the afternoon. I also have when I'm going to sleep and when I'm waking up on the calendar.
Yes, boss. I love to see that. I love to see calendared sleep. That makes me happy as a coach. I know that you're part of the one percenters that are doing that, but way to go.
And honestly, it's taking something that some people might consider a liability and turning it into an asset. So you might say, "Oh man, you have young kids. You can't go out anymore. You can't do whatever anymore." And I'm like, "This is amazing. Like, little kids thrive on structure and routine. You want the same bedtime for them every day. And if you're putting your kids down to bed, it's kind of like, well, I could get up and do a bunch of random stuff at night, or I could just go to bed pretty early and then get up and have my day start at 3:30.
So on that note, hold on. So this is a dense topic, and I'm not going to let you gloss over it like that. So we should chime in that the reason why your family time is so predictable is you've got a partner in crime who's extremely reliable and diligent in helping you maintain the structure that's necessary for the family unit, and that's your wife, Candace.
Yes. Well, so here's the thing. What I found is because when the mission priorities are right, where it's like top priority is not crush it at work and personal glory, the top priority is be an amazing husband and father. Husband is first because the whole unit starts to crumble if I prioritize the kids over her, right? Because she's the partner in crime. She's the one who's carrying half. So it's like so I gotta make sure that's strongest, and then kids too. And it's obviously I care about all of them. But so for example, what I need to do is I need to be any changes I make. Like, how is this optimal for everyone is the question that I ask myself. So when I started working out with you almost a year and a half ago now, maybe even more, I remember I was like, I got to start working out. I got to do this. I got to figure it out. So I went into my schedule and said, okay, what's going to work? X time to X time, this time to this time. And I said, well, it's got to be before they get up. And then I said, and I got to get back in time because I know Candace likes to do her bar 3 workout class. So, and she was not doing it regularly. I wasn't working out regularly. She wasn't working out regularly. Then all of a sudden I'm like, hey, I want to change my schedule and lock this in. And she's like, well, great. I want to work out too. And that involved me taking over the boys in the morning, which I had to mature to do that. Cause I was like, oh my God, it's hard. There's 2 of them. I'd rather have us together, but it's like, it all of a sudden didn't make sense to be like, okay, great. I'm going to go work out. You take care of the boys when they first get up. Then I'll get home. And you can't work out because I can't manage the boys by myself. That doesn't work. So, and then she's like, okay, well, I can go work out. And I said, well, how many days do you want to work out? And I saw her do this. She's like, well, maybe 3. And I knew what she was doing because I have done this a lot.
Arbitration.
Yeah, she was pre-compromising. She was like assessing what she could get and compromise. And I was like, hold on a sec. If you could have whatever you want, what would you want it to be? And she's like 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. And I'm like, awesome, let's do it. And then, of course, the implementation was a little messy because I had to step up and grow and mature a lot. This is when Armand was first, right after he was born. And taking care of a baby and a toddler, I had a lot of growing to do. So I was kind of cranky a lot of mornings when she would leave. It was like, yeah, I want to support you. And then the moment of her leaving, I was like, well, fine, just go, whatever. I'm fine. I got him. But I've grown, and just now I love the mornings with the boys. And so every change I make, and I've been making changes up until literally a month and a half ago, I just made a huge change into polyphasic sleep. And every time it's benefited everyone. So now with my new sleep schedule, which I can show my calendar in a sec, now I've upped my time with my boys. I spend 5 hours a day with my kids, Monday through Friday, and then more on the weekends. Mostly all day on the weekends, unless I'm doing something else, which is rare. So I get 2 hours with them in the morning, 1 hour at lunch, and then 2 hours before bed, which is awesome. Sometimes even more than that, which I love. But just to round out, close out the loop here, I'm going to share my screen. We're going to look at the current schedule of today. Well, I'm traveling tomorrow, so that's a little weird. Let's look at next week. There we go. So you'll see now, it's just now there's like no white space on the calendar, basically.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of white space before, but we'll get into because your health routine has a lot to do with the density and the productivity of this calendar. And there's some cool stuff on here. We're gonna go into your health stuff in about 3 minutes. But yeah, you were extremely detailed down to what 15-minute blocks.
Yeah, 30-minute blocks usually is ideal, but it's what it is it's people look at that and be like, oh my God, my brother, he's the opposite of me. He's like, I like free flowing, man. This is exemplified by our smoothies. When I make a smoothie, I know you put this amount of blueberries, this amount of banana, this amount of peanut butter, this amount of kale. And he's like, I put in different ingredients every time, man. I just throw whatever's in the fridge. It's different. You know, your thing is too restricted. But I'm of the mindset of the book you gave me by Jocko Willink's. Discipline equals freedom. And so, well, the way I see this, and the way this works is, this isn't just work scheduled into my calendar. This is my life. So I got self-care stuff in there. I got fun time in there. I got connection time with my family in there. I got guitar playing time, naps, runs, as well as deep work blocks, client time. So what it does is it allows me to premeditate the optimal schedule and then fill it in and then test it for 2 or 3 months and then tweak it. And then of course there's the discipline of adhering to it, which is another whole other thing to work with our psychology to do that. But once you design the ultimate schedule, I found it to be it's way better than the free form in my opinion, because I'm able to systematically decide how to meet all my core needs ahead of time.
And then as somebody who does a little bit, I dabble in that kind of scheduling. There's a tremendous relief in knowing that you have 4 hours of free time on Thursday, so that you don't have to stress about not getting your boxing or book reading or leisurely hike. And if you know you've got something great planned for yourself, now you're not like, everything's tight on the walls are pressed in on me, I've got these deadlines, and like, no, you're like, no, tomorrow afternoon I'm doing a thing, like it's all good. Like you're a little bit more, you trust the system's there to protect you.
Totally, yeah, I'm stressed out tonight. Well, great, I got my self-care time tomorrow morning.
Yep.
That's huge.
So segue right into this discipline equals freedom. Jocko is echoing in my mind. So, we'll get into your health practices as well. So the most important thing that I got from all of that, all your intense calendaring, is that it was iterative, and it cycled to be more dense and more in tune with what your business life and family needed. And so like it wasn't like one day you were a 9 to 4 person and then the next day everything was structured. You kind of layered it in over time as needs. So I think a lot of people, myself included, will say like, "Hey, I'm gonna write every day for 3 hours," having never done that.
Brian Johnson, who runs Optimize.me, it's a subscription service where he packages information. But he's really brilliant. He's read like over 400 books on all these topics and distills all the information down. But he talks about when it comes to habit formation, he's like, don't be a hero. Don't be like I'm going to do bleh, and then yell strong for a week and then just peter out. Like start really small. And I've seen this is true. Like start really small. And then what you're doing is you're building trust with yourself. And once you have that trust and you've earned it, just like any relationship, then you can add more in, and then you can add more in. And that's what I've done. And my capacity to say, I'm going to do that, and then to do it has just increased. And then so you can take on more.
Yeah. Hell yeah, man. Yes, build. And then that in and of itself, like structuring in, like if you're actually good at honoring commitments to yourself, your capacity actually builds, because hopefully if you're in balance, we'll talk about that right now, because I know you have a lot to say on this health front. But if you're in balance, you're not just pouring out of the cup, you're pouring into the cup too. And you should be trying to balance it out to whatever makes sense for you. I mean, I know that there's Gary Vaynerchuk people who want to do it for 16, 18 hours a day, and that's sort of balance for them. And there's people that are, more modest, 7 to 9 hours of work and then family time and read time. But let's go into like making those, like actually choosing what goes into the calendar, choosing what recharges you. And so this is going to have to do with kind of like yeah, what feeds you, and what your motivation is. So, well, I'm going to give people a really fast background on Aziz. So Aziz, how long have you been in pain management type of programs in your life? Because when I met you, you were dealing with some back stuff, and
Yeah.
get into that for me.
So I'm 35 now. At the age of 15, I developed consistent debilitating chronic pain. It was managed okay by medication when I was about 19, 20. So I had chronic pain unmanaged for 5 years, which was intense. I was at times suicidal because I didn't know if I could live like that forever. Then got medication that seemed to help, but my pain problems weren't over. They just shifted to different parts of my body. It's called the symptom imperative. I didn't know that at the time, and no one knew that at the time that I was talking to. No doctors knew that. But so now no longer back pain as much, but wrist pain, foot pain, ankle pain, jaw pain, blah, 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 stomach pain. And it was only when I was about 31 or so that I discovered mind-body medicine and the fact that stress and tension create any sort of pain you could imagine, and illness and dysfunction in the body. And then, then began my quest to defeat one by one every symptom that I had. And over the course of maybe 3 years, I was able to defeat all symptoms but one, which was the original back pain. And had been taking that medication now for the age of 34, 14 years, 15 years. And then over the course of the last year, I remember I was on an interview for something else that we did where I said, I will be off that medication. And lo and behold, it is so. And I've been off of it for 6 months now. Getting off of it was rocky. And I had to scale back, and I just didn't go to the gym for a month. I was just really had to do work through my own stuff. But now I'm completely off the medication, completely shattered the limiting stories that I'm broken in my body, and now feel just unstoppable when it comes to growing stronger, and will defeat you in push-ups, sit-outs, and knee grabs one day.
That's good. Man has to have hope.
They just a little bit ahead of me too, so I feel like I'm getting closer, and then you just pull a little bit ahead. It's like me racing my 4-year-old son. I'm like, oh, you're getting ahead. Oh, okay. Anytime I know I could just juice it past him. I let him win a lot of the time. For now,
well, I'll never let you win. Anyways, this is really critical. I'm going to let you. I have some prompting questions because I know you are just a reservoir of cool info on this stuff. But what I'll say is, Aziz was diagnosed with an autoimmune disorder, autoimmune disease, and was on medication for it for better part of 2 decades, but got off of it and is now pain-free and totally committed. And he said something to me, which I've heard lots of friends say. When did you actually finish the journey? Was that about 3 months ago, 4 months ago?
Well, I was completely, I started tapering down and got totally off of them in September. So September, October, November, December, January, February, March. So it's 7 months now.
So he said something to me. He was like, I'm going to go take care of this once and for all sort of thing. And I've heard friends say this about their own personal demons before, like alcohol or their problem with their dad or whatever. It's like, I'm going to solve this. And I've heard that the language vary and people take on this sort of identity altering task. And Aziz is the first person I've ever met that actually did that. He said, I'm going to go take care of this thing that's been plaguing me my whole life, and then goes and does it, and then comes back and is like, cool, now that we have no more back pain, let's deadlift 250 pounds. See how that goes.
Yeah.
So yeah. Talk about what you were tackling, and then all the approaches that helped you kind of get clear and free of pain and overcome some obstacles in that.
Sure. Yeah, no, I love it, man. I think that it was like the final battle. And the way that this chronic pain, so first of all, I don't think any human needs to have chronic pain for the reasons that are ascribed in our society. Like, oh, you had a car accident 18 years ago. Yeah, Oh yeah, you hurt your shoulder 7 years ago. Like, no. That's not a source of chronic pain. I don't think. Of course, there's exceptions, and everyone thinks that they're the exception. Like, oh yeah, no, mine's totally. But the vast majority of it, I'd say in the 90 some percentile, is it's a mind body connection that people aren't aware of. It's growing slowly in awareness, and those are the lessons that I had to learn, and they're not easy to learn because of the cultural programming, the medical programming, societal programming that says your pain is caused by your physical body. It's a biological machine. It has nothing to do with the mind and emotions. Those are two separate boxes. And they're not. It's just the training on how to work with those things is two separate trainings, And so those people don't cross-contaminate. And so it's like, oh, no, that's a different thing. And the truth is, it's just that the medical doctors are not comfortable with emotions. That's not what their training is in. And then the psychological community is not comfortable with the physical side because that's not what their training is. So but the human who's caught in the middle of this is an organized, connected organism. Your thoughts are affecting your emotions, and that's through like biology, neurochemistry, neuropeptides. That's affecting the hormones in your body, which are then in turn affecting the muscles in your body. I mean, everything is connected. And so it seems it's so obvious in retrospect, but was so hard to convince myself of, which is chronic stress of any sort will cause pain. And not just like, oh, I'm so stressed out. Yeah, my chest is hurting. And people got that. Like, oh yeah, you can have a panic attack or whatever. No, I'm talking about like that stabbing pain in the bottom of your foot. I'm talking about that pain where you're running and your knee hurts only when you run. And you're like, no, dude, it only hurts when I'm running. So therefore it's the running. Right. And it's like, no, this is how it manifests. And that's the thing. That's the reason why I think about 90% of people, this is a stat that I've heard from a number of people that teach on this stuff and doctors that write about it. They say about 90% of the population is not open to this as a form of healing.
Not open to it.
Not open to it in their experience, which has been basically my numbers. Now, a lot of people will give me sort of a benign, like they'll hear me out, especially if I make the story about me.
Sure.
That's what I found most of it. If I try to talk about them, they're like, how dare you? How dare you tell me that my pain is not real? Even though I'm not saying it's not real. No, it's real freaking pain. It hurts. It's just the source of it is not that you got into an accident 8 years ago. The source of it is chronic tension. And that's where, so my biggest breakthroughs came from really getting that. And so even just as, and I am applying it to this day, I was telling you about this morning in the gym. Yesterday, Monday, so 2 days ago, I was going for a run, felt great. And then right after the run, pain, my down in like the buttocks, tailbone, glute area, same place where I used to always get debilitating, scary pain. And then what we do when we feel pain is we freak out. We try to get away from it.
Absolutely.
We try to extract ourselves out of our bodies and like exist somewhere else. Or we start to root, oh my God, is this going to get worse? Where is this coming from? We start to go into pity. We have a whole host of really compounding that they're going to create problems down the road because we're getting so tense inside. So now we're all stressed out about the pain. And so part of the training and to really overcome this is to learn how to relax into it. And so now when I feel the pain, I don't run away from it. I don't go into the future. I bring my attention right into it. And I say, this pain is just an accumulation of stress. And what's been happening is I've been tense over the last day or two, but I might not have noticed it. It was sort of sub-threshold, sub-awareness. If I'd slowed down, I probably would have noticed it, but I didn't slow down. Because like a lot of people, when discomfort starts to build, I try to just blaze right through it. Just stay ahead of the wave. And then, so I get the signal and I say, okay, this pain is a signal. What's going on? And then I'll like have a day, which happened on Monday, where I resist that fact. I don't want a signal. I don't want to change anything. Damn it. And then the pain persists and I'm like, all right, fine. And for me, shortening that time is the goal, right? And so all of a sudden I was like, okay, what's the issue? And I just slow down and I listen. And, and the people that teach all this mind-body stuff, most of them recommend some sort of journaling practice, because you got to be able to slow down and listen and see what's going on. And for most people, it's goodism, trying to please everybody in their life, being a nice person, or perfectionism. And for me, it's both. So it's both. And those are the two things that I've had to work on a lot. And I looked at it this time just yesterday, and I was looking at it, and I was like, it's perfectionism. I'm wanting to accomplish way more than is reasonable. And so my crazy schedule with as much time as like humanly possible was blocked off for working on stuff in the most systematic way as possible wasn't enough.
Yeah,
I gotta do more.
I gotta do faster. This would be better.
Yeah. I mean, just like, and so operating that way for several days, which I can fall into, I call it double more, or else I'm now rebranded potentially as hyperdrive. Hyperdrive. While I'm doing that, I might not be aware of it, but I am subtly clenching my back. I'm subtly clenching my stomach. I'm subtly clenching my shoulders. And you operate like that for a day or two or 3 or 4 or 7. And then you go try to work out or try to run or whatever, or just get out of bed or just sit at your computer, and you're going to have pain. Especially if you've conditioned yourself to think, oh, activity X gives me pain.
Yeah, and I want to jump in here because like I don't want people to hear that and think that pain is a phantom that like that is in your mind, and then if you just believe enough, like Tinkerbell, it goes away. And like what Aziz is saying is you're actually creating tension that is physically manifest in your tissue.
So no, your muscles are actually contracted in a state of spasm. The difference is it's more like a Charlie horse than some major debilitating problem.
Right. And like you were talking about how the medical community and the physical community don't gel together. And like this is something I see all the time is in like misdiagnosed back pain because back pain is just hard to diagnose in general. And a lot of physicians don't use adequate tools. Like there's some like right out of medical textbook ways to diagnose spinal pathology. And some doctors just don't, depending on what is commonplace practice at their institutions, just don't practice it. So they just don't know how to diagnose something properly or confirm a negative or positive. And so you get people who have back pain for whatever reason, and then the doctor puts a name to it. And then once they have that name to it, they don't understand. And this is something that Eric Greitens wrote in his book Resilience, which is just a brilliant book. I think he wrote it for veterans coming home, but he talks about when someone hands you an excuse, they're trying to do you a favor, but they're trying to do themselves a favor too. Because if you take the excuse, you don't have to achieve anymore, and then the pressure's off them as well. So like what doctors and physical therapists and people who are in a position to try and help somebody is they feel pressure to help this person, and if they accept the diagnosis, then the pressure is now off of them. Like now the pressure is into the pathology or the system. And whether or not they have any plan or any treatment and any way to fix it or any ideas doesn't matter. Now the pressure's off the doctor, and the patient feels that pressure to take care of everybody around them, to accept the diagnosis and to say like, okay, this is what I have to do. And it helps them too, because then they have something to blame or something to be pissed off about, whatever it is. But I'm not saying that people don't have back pain. I think that it's just misunderstood and misdiagnosed, and that, like you said, every problem has a solution, and there's room for growth, and there's room for amelioration of whatever it is that's going on. But it kind of becomes static and nominalized and frozen when somebody gets that diagnosis, and it's tough to dislodge once somebody's got that.
And that's the most common story you hear. I spent a lot of time on forums talking to other people that are dealing with this and overcoming this. TMS Wiki is a phenomenal one for anyone interested. TMS Wiki, but that's the biggest hurdle, is overcoming the diagnosis, overcoming the X-rays or the MRIs that show spinal degeneration. Never mind that when they take MRIs of 100 healthy people that report no back pain, Some, and this is people in like their 30s, some odd, like over 60, 70%, something like that, have different pathologies in the spine, disc bulges, curves in the spine,
And no
degenerative
pain.
discs, and no pain. And like this kind of stuff just doesn't permeate the mainstream because, and the more I really got into this, it got a little bit like, it was too much because it was enraging. It was like, whoa, there's this big machine at work here. And I had the same reaction when I was in graduate school, when I was learning a lot about the pharmaceutical industry, especially for psychotropic drugs. It was like, wait, we know all this stuff? Like, people that have dug in there have found that they, do washing before the studies to get rid of the placebo effect. They do manipulation of the data, that for a lot of the SSRIs for mild to moderate depression, it is no better than placebo, with an insane host of side effects that are being minimized. And I would just read all this stuff and I'd be like getting enraged. And I'd look around at my classmates and they just seemed sort of like unfazed by it. And I was like, what? And it was the same thing with the mind body stuff. I was like, so you're telling me that this like really reputable, I forget the name of it, was some reputable research body really dug into back surgery and found that 99% of back surgeries were unwarranted. And I'm like, and these are still going on every day. Like, I want to take up a pitchfork. And so I was like, but then I'm like, okay. And I had to learn, I had to heal myself. I spread the message where I can, mainly by talking about my own story. And I often, it's been interesting to talk with people about it because there is the diagnosis and all that stuff you're talking about. Like, people want to defend it. They want to guard it, and it meets needs. And very few people are ready for radical, big transformation in their lives. As much as they want to be free, they don't want it. It involves confronting things, because it's like, why am I stressed in my life? What do I not like? What do I not like about how I operate? What beef do I have with my family members and my coworkers and my wife and my husband and how do I treat myself day to day in my mind? Am I perfectionistic and angry at myself all the time? Like, people don't want to look at that stuff. And so on some level, you're saying, hey, you could heal all this pain by working on that pain. And they're like, ugh. It's unconscious. They're just like, no, thanks. But hey, I'm like, man, this is way easier to deal with, honestly, than the physical pain. And you heal it, and then your physical pain is gone forever. I'm like, I'm just like, sign me up. I'll take that, please.
Well, I think that we all learn it someday, right? If you read like what people find out on their deathbed, like what their thoughts are, they're like, man, I wish I would have let myself be happy 50 years ago. Because like as they go and let go of everything, they realize they could have just let go of everything a long time ago. But that's subject for your fitness book, which I'm going to help you write.
One day,
I'm gonna put you on the spot. So people come to this podcast in our mailing list for tactics, techniques, and protocols on resilience. So you call them hacks, call them strategies, whatever. The term evolves a decade in and decade out. So I'm gonna give me a round robin. I'm gonna put you on the clock for 5 minutes of these strategies that you have, things that you put into your calendar, into your life to elevate your energy. What do you put into your daily routines to get your energy levels up? Whether it's how much you're sleeping. I know you do got some ice baths you want to talk about. So all right, go ahead and riff, and you're on the clock.
We're going to start by displaying fully in, and let go. That's Wim Hof. Been a teacher of mine that I've really learned from this last year. Really love and feel a lot of gratitude for him and what he's taught me. So first and foremost, the most energizing thing that I do is a 10-minute cold shower every morning. Started with just 90 seconds. Well, started with just cold at the end of the hot shower, and then eventually 90-second cold shower, eventually now a 10-minute shower. And it is incredible. I have been experimenting with polyphasic sleep, where I get about 4.5 to 5 hours at night, and then I take 2 25-minute naps a day. So it's less sleep than I used to get. And when I immediately upon awakening after using the bathroom is a cold shower. I don't know how anyone does any sort of polyphasic sleep without that. I think the internet teaches polyphasic sleep, which for anyone listening, that just means you sleep less at night and then nap during the day. Polyphasic, many phases. And I don't know how they teach that without the cold shower. So, but even if you're not doing less sleep,
wake up.
Yeah, it is incredible. Like I'll be like tired, like oh tired. Done with the shower, I am awake and ready to go. I am so awake that I get up at midnight, and then I will take the cold shower, and then sometimes that's the time that Candace and I actually can hang out because she's up often in the middle of the night nursing Armand and my second son, and we'll end up talking and hanging out as we get adult conversation, time to make love, time to really connect. And I am so awake that after four and a half hours of sleep, after that cold shower, I'm able to lay down in bed and hang out for an hour and not get tired, not fall asleep. So the cold shower is incredible.
I couldn't do that now, but go ahead.
Yeah. His breathing technique is super helpful. It's deep, fully in, let go. So it's like, you do 30 of those, you're hyper oxygenating. And I actually do as well in the shower for time condensation purposes.
Of course you do.
It's efficiency. I was paring down. How can I make my morning routine not like 2 hours long? So do that, get out of the shower, do 50 push-ups. And that's sort of like, and then maybe either hang out with Candace or go continue on with my standard routine, which is 15 minutes of stretching and yoga, 15-minute focused meditation. And the meditation sometimes goes longer, but the meditation is really a body-focused meditation where I am clearing, I talk about that tension that builds up, I'm clearing that. So I'm finding where there's discomfort in my body, and I'm just bringing my attention to it and relaxing, sending it love, surrendering, allowing whatever I need to let go of. Usually I need to start by letting go of fighting the feeling and not wanting the feeling. So I need to surrender to this feeling is here. And then the feeling is like, I don't want this in my life, or I need more of that. And I'm like, okay, let's see if we can then surrender. So surrender that the feeling is here. I allow it totally. And then can I let go of needing that thing or needing to not have that challenge in my life or whatever. And I don't have to get to the end of it in 15 or 20 minutes. I just do it as a maintenance thing. And sometimes if I'm like, whoa, I need more, I'll do it a little longer, or maybe I'll journal or something. But I try to get that all into an hour or hour and 10 minutes. And then a little bit of gratitude practice after that, just 5 minutes, focused gratitude. I call it my gratitude sprint. And it's all here on this little card. This is the ultimate morning ritual version 2.0. And here's what I do on this side. And then here's my why for each thing. Because you got to have a strong why. Otherwise, I don't want to do it. So I have written out, here's why. Wake up at midnight. Why? It unlocks everything. I can create, achieve, and enjoy anything I want. Life fully lived, master of time. And then ice shower / Wim Hof breathing. Why do that? It makes me strong. Cold training prepares me for anything. I'm more alive in my body, more energized, happier. Conquer the cold and you win at life. I become a more powerful teacher. So now I have these things. So it's like when you're kind of, do I want to do it today or not? Like you got a really compelling reason to do the stuff. So that's the linchpin. That's like the key thing. That's my self-care ritual. I do a red X on my calendar back there every day that I do it. And I really do my best to not break the chain. I'm also not perfectionistic about it. So if I do break the chain, I don't give myself a hard time at all. And I'm also flexible. So this morning, I had a really awesome time for about an hour with Candace, but Candace plays at the same level as me. So sometimes we go deep emotionally and I'm like talking about feelings and feeling feelings. And so I count that as my meditation for the day because it's sort of the same function. So I used to get really hung up on the form of it. It's got to be this. And then I realized that was to like impress people or something. Sure. I meditate. And it's like, well, I don't care about that. It's about what makes me feel energized. Absolutely. So that routine rocks it. Naps are phenomenal. I used to be against naps. Now I think a power nap, 20 25 minutes is incredible. You don't go into deep sleep and you're not groggy.
It plays into your polyphasic sleep plan anyway, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and like you've thrown out some big ideas that one of the things that I'm just going to bring back into what you said earlier is like friction, like during the day, like just having a plan and pre-screening out things and people that are going to derail you or take your energy away. So you have a very low friction environment, which is why you move at the speed that you move at during your weeks and years, because I think a lot of folks are having to make a decision to stay in this conversation or hang out with this person or take this activity on, and it's not part of their structure. But you've already done that. You've done the work of getting rid of the energy drains ahead of time.
Yeah, and I've systematically done that over the years as part of becoming less nice and more authentic, more real, more willing to take care of myself so that I can have better relationships and serve who I'm here to serve. So that involves being on a very limited availability to a lot of people, whether it's people that are going to drain energy or want something from me that I just couldn't give to everyone in a way that everyone wants. That meant systematically only taking on a very certain kind of clientele and not ones that are going to be like just real. I mean, someone else can help the other people that are really stuck. I'm looking for people that are really ready to grow, and they could be scared as hell, but they're ready. And then and then they're in. So,
not the life preserver people.
People, right?
Yeah, right above that. Just
right.
I'm in the boat.
I'm ready to swim. I'll swim. I don't know how to do it. I doubt myself, but I'm ready. And it's like, okay, great. And then I just bang the drum of like total ownership and taking action. And so that has all come together to produce that. And it's about boundaries too. It's really, what am I going to say yes to? What am I going to say no to? And saying no to a lot, and then delegating, having people on my team handle a variety of things. One of which is to screen heavily what comes to me in terms of email, so that it's like we're not ignoring people, but at the same time, I'm not the one sitting there doing a ton of that, because that could easily hemorrhage an hour and a half of your day, and you feel busy, but you're getting nowhere.
Oh, easy.
And then I had another thing right along the lines of that. Email. I forget. Media. I don't take in. I'm very intentional with my media use. So I don't watch news. I don't go onto Facebook without a purpose of what I'm doing there. And that has freed up my consciousness to, again, hang out with cool people like Arnold Schwarzenegger, or I decided recently I wanted to learn a new language, and it's like a lot of your bandwidth is not being taken up by worry and fear and focusing on stuff that's like way outside of your control. And then if I want to learn about something that's current or present day, like an issue in the world, I just go study that in a targeted fashion. So yes. I'm choosing the information versus like, what does the media want to scare me with today?
Well, and it's an illusion of being well informed. It's like, I know what's going on, and you really just what you have is a predetermined narrative, mostly of fear, not really organized, and it's superficial data anyway. But it gives you a sense of like watching the soap
Grand
opera
theater. Yeah. Oh, he said what to who, and no one has jacked that up more than Trump. I mean, the master of reality TV showmanship,
He's the WWE heel. I mean, he knows how to be the villain for 330 million people all at once, the whole world.
Man, I am not into a lot of what the policies and what he does, but I just think in terms of him as like as a character, as a public figure, as much as people say he's an idiot and we hate him, it's like, he's got some sort of powers and skills to work people to as random and reactive as he seems. He wields great power and is branded himself as like brilliant and rich and success and so he's got something. He's not just a total idiot.
He's the if you look at he's like the poster child for shame. Like he is living I don't have any sense of shame, which is like what we all aspire to have, right? Like no, I'm not afraid of being wrong or imperfect in front of the entire world. And he's as wrong as and imperfect as you could be in front of the entire world. And he's constantly like, I'm good. No, I mean, like, some people did disagree on like what I say. And I think that the counterbalance is wielding tremendous power and crushing so many people underneath that power is the thing that people are enraged about. It's tough because like you said, dynamic character getting lots of attention, but also, even we can learn something from somebody who's maybe the opposite of what many of our beliefs are.
Sure. People are a warning, an example of how you want to be, or a warning. So I guess people can choose who Trump is for them. I think I know who it is for me.
Right.
Yeah, man. So those are my very specific tips on maintaining your energy, resilience. I found those to be extremely helpful and allow me to operate at a very high. Obviously this might go without saying, but eating a very clean diet, that's super obvious. So that means no refined sugars and just toxic stuff, sodas, all that stuff out.
I think Jack LaLanne has a poster of him saying no soda, no cakes, no flour, and like it's like 1940 or whatever, and it's not 40, but it's like it's in black and white. He's on a chalkboard, and it's like this isn't new information, right? And you're either going to hear it from your trainer, you're going to hear it from your doctor, you're going to hear it from your husband and wife. Just pick a person you like to listen to, and listen to that person about it, because everybody's saying it now. It's eat well.
Yeah, I know. That's eat real foods and fruits and vegetables. Hold on, slow down. Where's my notebook?
Yeah, call it paleo, eat vegan. I don't care. As long as you're mindful about what you're choosing, just get it in your mouth. Get real food in your mouth,
Yeah.
All the way. All right. So thank you for dishing out a piece of your self-care routine, and some of the people now are going to, if there was any doubt about whether or not you were certifiably insane, you pretty much closed the loop on that one. I think it was Krishnamurti who said, it's no measure of health to be considered sane in a sick society. And you, my friend, are off the reservation.
I am insane. I know. I fully own it. And when I look at extraordinary people that are heroes of mine, Tony Robbins, I've been reading biographies, as you know, Alexander the Great, Arnold Schwarzenegger. I mean, all of these people that are amazing. And whether you agree with, say, the attempt to take over the world or not, they're extraordinary in the sense that they are different than anyone before them and anyone since in a lot of ways. And what they all have in common is they're extreme. They're way outside the bounds of normal. And so I look at that, and then what's cool is at first people take a step out of the norm and they think like, oh no, is this okay? I'm weird. And once you're out of it for long enough, as I've been, you start to look at the norm and be like, that's not at all where I'd want to be.
Oh yeah.
I'm in pain, tired, not liking my job, dysfunctional relationships, medicated. Like, that's normal in America in terms of statistics. And I'd say, no, I'd rather do, happily, blissfully insane. You know what I like to say? Eccentric. Because eccentric means odd or strange, but it has a connotation of genius to it.
Sure.
So
yeah,
part of myself is eccentric.
That's right. Yeah, man. And as it should be, because I think everybody's reality has some like element of suffering to someone else. Like, oh really? Like you only get to sleep 5 hours. There's people who look forward to sleep as much as you might look forward to playing the guitar or going for a run. And so your lifestyle to them is crazy, but vis-a-vis, like you said, and may you get to have the pain and the challenges that at least you get to design, in your own life and take on. We wrapped a little bit about your work, your work-life balance, your schedule, your hacks for energy. And so for people who are, maybe starting a business or starting a fitness routine or getting started, any parting advice for them in terms of things that have helped you kind of frame your own resiliency, and like what advice would you give yourself if you were starting the Center for Social Confidence right now? Knowing what you need to know now, what would you tell your 2011 self?
Well, I guess those are two different things, because what I would tell myself starting and what I would tell someone else would be different. Because I think I started off on the right foot, which was immediate and consistent action. That's it. So immediate action means you learn something, like say from this interview, and your speed of implementation is high. You go out and you use it today or this week. You don't take it in as passive information. That was entertaining. Now back to ordinary day to day. It's like, what was that thing he was talking about? That TMS wiki, or okay, I'm going to figure out what I'm going to do in the morning, or whatever it is, whatever someone takes, but you take something and you use it.
Right.
So, and that's true for a fitness routine. That's true for anything you want to do in your business. You got to implement it right away. And then consistency is important though too, because you be a hero for 2 days and then you drop it. That serves nothing. Right. So immediate and consistent. And I would say that's the advice that I give, because that's where I see most people stalling out with anything, is they, yeah, I'm going to work on that one day. And usually it's fear. Usually there's some story on top of the fear. I don't know the time. I don't know where to go. You know, it's a story when someone's like, oh yeah, I researched into like growing my business, and then I hit this snag and I didn't know what to do. Oh, cool. So how did you solve that problem? Oh, I just stopped.
Right.
It's like, but you know, if it was anything else that in your life, it's like you would find a way, right? But it's like, oh, it's scary. It's hard. I don't want to fail, blah, blah, blah. So immediate and consistent action. That was what I was already doing though when I started this, because by that point, I'd worked a ton on my confidence. I'd studied under Tony Robbins. I knew the drill. So what would I tell my 2011 self? I would say, it's kind of like that thing on the deathbed, right? Like you don't have to stress so much. You don't have to, your success is inevitable. If you're willing to consistently, implement, learn new things, implement them, consistently take action, and just keep working on your own inner fear and doubt and insecurity from a variety of reasons, or a variety of ways to do that. But if you're willing to do that inner work and take the action, then your success is inevitable. And I had a teacher that even said that. I was 2015 before I met him, but even then it took me a year or two to really get it. But now I really get that. It's like, and you might say, well, you can say that now because your business is successful, but I take that mindset to anything, like the gym, right? It's like, oh no, if you show up and you learn new things and you do the work and you work on your fear or your doubt or whatever, you'll achieve whatever you want in the gym. And same thing goes for, as I said, learning a language or anything else, a relationship that you want to create. So that's the advice I would give, is like, you don't have to wonder and stress so much about what if it doesn't. It's just like, no, it will. The only mystery is the time frame. And the only problem there is our own impatience. Like, I want to fast, versus like, yeah, it'll unfold at the rate that it's meant to. And that, I do believe that we're guided and that we have a mission and a purpose, and it unfolds. It's bigger than us, and it unfolds with us, through us. And so our ego is like, it should be going X amount faster. And that's totally arbitrary. And so my ongoing practice is just to really let go. And, as exemplified by just this conversation, spend 2 days not letting go and trying to drive it faster, and then hitting the wall and realizing that I just need to take a step back. So it's an ongoing process. I'm a work in progress, and I'm always learning myself.
Oh yeah. Hell yeah. And I appreciate that. And we'll end on that note, because that's just it. Like if you're actually doing the thing that's most important to you, like it's like learning to walk. How many times are you going to fail? You're not going to give up because you fell down once or twice. Like you're just going to keep going until you figure it out. And there's nothing better to do than to figure it out. And
that's the name of the mastermind program I have. It's you guys can see that, unstoppable confidence mastermind. And that's, we have these bands on it, but I wear it too because it's a great reminder. And that's that's really the goal, is not to be the fastest or the best right away. It's just to be unstoppable on the things that matter most to you.
Yeah, baby. Resilient. That's unstoppable. This is Dr. and Coach Aziz, the Center for Social Confidence, the author of Not Nice. Pick that one up. Treat yourself. Treat yourself, because it'll teach you some things about taking care of yourself in a way that will actually make you easier to deal with by all the people who love you. So do that. Any parting words for our gritty warriors who are out there trying to figure it out?
Oh man, I just love and respect each of you just for showing up, for listening, to making it this far. You're obviously dedicated, motivated, and I'm excited to however this applies in your life and to use it. Brother
Awesome.
or sister on the path.
Hell yeah. All right, Aziz, then until the inevitable next interview and your inevitable success, thank you so much for chatting with us.
My pleasure, man. Always fun. Do it again soon. See ya.
Peace.